Besele ukhokhela ikhampani angishala.
Yeah.
Kusho ukuthi kuzoba right. Nisenawo ama-options.
Ama-options. Usho ukuthini mkhulu? Usho ukuthi sidayise?
Yebo. Thathani imali ngoba ikhampani isine-value. Iphume niphele endaweni. Ngiyakutshela.
Hello everyone, welcome back to ASR, African Stories Realized. This is a full recap of episodes 15 to 24 of Empini Season 1. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Episode 15 picks up at the Bodoza home, where Tobani delivered the news of Khaya's untimely passing to his distraught family. The Bodozas immediately began grieving and making funeral arrangements. However, there was no body to bury, with Khaya believed to have perished in the fire. General Moeti visited the Bodozas to pay his respects, but after he left, Khaya's wife made it clear that she didn't trust him, ordering Tobani to double the family's security. Back at MPS, Tobani reported to the staff that Khaya had passed away. Meanwhile, Ndoni returned home where a confrontation with Matopa revealed that he was the one who shot Khaya at the wedding, preventing Ndoni from taking the shot herself and potentially ruining her own life. At Khaya's funeral, he was given an honorable send-off, and the episode ends with General Moeti being summoned to Enoch's car, where he was waiting. Episode 16 picks up in the aftermath of Khaya's funeral, with Enoch and General Moeti blaming each other for Khaya's death. Khaya's family continued going through it, with Nosipo opting to stay with the family while they mourn. Meanwhile, General Moeti encouraged Uhuru to support Nosipo and ultimately help fill the void that Khaya had left behind. At MPS, Tobani interviewed everyone who was responsible for protecting Khaya the day he died. General Moeti then paid Tobani a visit, trying to find out if the family had appointed a new managing director for MPS. Tobani, however, was not in the mood to discuss anything with Moeti, who was quickly becoming a main suspect. The episode ends with a mysterious figure knocking on an unknown woman's door. The woman opened the door, revealing the mysterious figure to be Khaya Bodoza. Episode 17 picks up with an injured Khaya begging Sasa for refuge as the show flashes back 30 years to when the two first met. A young Khaya was playing football when he met Sasa, with the two instantly hitting it off. Their relationship grew, with Khaya intent on marrying her. We are then introduced to a young Bonga, revealing that they were part of a covert platoon of freedom fighters led by a younger General Moeti. They executed an operation with multiple casualties. After the operation, Khaya revealed to Sasa that he was a freedom fighter but had to leave. Sasa insisted that she wanted to leave with him and the two got engaged. However, General Moeti refused to wait for Khaya's fiancée, forcing them to leave her behind when Khaya's platoon was about to leave. The episode ends in present day with Khaya proclaiming that he will slaughter his enemies from the grave. Episode 18 picks up in Kokstad with Khaya and Sasa as she gives him notice that he has to leave by 5. Meanwhile at the Bodoza home, Nosipo was going all out looking after her mother and brother. Uhuru came by and tried to encourage her to take a break, but Nosipo quickly shut him down, insisting her family needed her during this time. However, her mother confronted her, suggesting she was avoiding moving in with a new husband. Nosipo tried to deny it, but her mother assured her that they'll be okay and she shouldn't use Khaya's death as an excuse to avoid her marriage. Back in Kokstad, Khaya and Sasa managed to catch up, but Sasa still insisted that he must leave. While Khaya was still begging Sasa to let him stay a bit longer, her son, Zenzele, arrived, questioning who Khaya was. Sasa introduced Khaya to her son as Kabzela, which Khaya confronted her for, but she quickly shut him down. The episode ends with Sasa once again giving Khaya notice that he must leave by the next day. Episode 19 picks up in Kokstad, with more flashbacks of a young Khaya and Sasa revealing that their relationship continued even after Khaya initially stood her up. In present day, a suspicious Khaya questioned Sasa about her son and how old he was, but Sasa refused to answer, insisting it was none of Khaya's business. Meanwhile at the Bodoza home, the family prepared for Khaya's will reading, with Nosipo's mom revealing she didn't know what to expect. also revealing that she didn't trust making Tobani the new managing director of MPS. Nosipho then visited Uhuru, bringing him some food from home. However, the visit ended poorly when Uhuru suggested that he would have preferred Nosipho to cook for him in their home as his wife. Uhuru then paid his father a visit and updated him on the current state of his marriage, and the general did not hold back, questioning his son's ability to follow through before revealing his master plan. The general advised Uhuru to stay close to Nosipho because when the time comes, he could take over MPS. Back at the Bodoza home, the reading of Khaya's will commenced with the family in attendance, including Uhuru, who eavesdropped from a distance. The will revealed that 50% of MPS went to Khaya's wife, whilst the other 50% would be owned by a trust which will be controlled by Mkonto and Nosipho. The two children were also given control of MPS, while their mother remained a silent partner. At Ndoni's place, Jabulani paid her a visit and accidentally stumbled upon some writings in Bonga's journal about Sasa, the lady currently giving Khaya refuge. Ndoni then opened up to Jabulani, revealing that she had no love lost for Khaya because he was the one that killed her father. The visibly unhinged Ndoni then went to tell her mother the same, declaring with tears in her eyes that she hates Khaya because he killed Bonga. Her mother was in disbelief as she tried to calm down Ndoni. Meanwhile in Kokstad, Khaya continued to press Sasa on who the father of her son is. The episode ends with Sasa finally revealing to Khaya that he's the father of her son. Episode 20 picks up with General Mweti paying Tobani a visit at MPS. The general suggested it was a good time to expose Enoch for the water crisis he was responsible for, revealing that Khaya was the one who did the dirty work, bribing people to keep the scandal quiet. Tobani ultimately released the information, causing a PR disaster for the deputy president. An angry Enoch went to the Bodoza home confronting Khaya's wife about how the information came out, blaming Khaya for the leak. Meanwhile, it seemed like Uhuru was taking his father's advice as he offered Nosipho support and was doing his best to convince her that he can help her shoulder the burden of Khaya's passing, especially regarding MPS. Back at MPS, Nkonto reported for his first day at work as he gatecrashed Tobani's meeting. Tobani had his hands full with Nkonto, who spent the day goofing around and even had his friends come over to shoot guns at the range. Upon returning home from work, Nkonto was exhausted and Nosipho was able to convince her younger brother that Uhuru was the best man to take over as managing director at MPS. At Ndoni's place, her and Jabulani were just hanging when she revealed that sometimes she gets lonely and needs someone to warm up her bed. Jabulani registered his interest and the episode ends with the two friends making out. Episode 21 picks up with Ndoni and Jabulani making out. However, Ndoni stopped the steamy engagement, making things awkward for the two friends. After avoiding Jabulani all day, they finally spoke about their experience, with Ndoni firmly putting Jabulani in the friend zone, despite Jabulani's visible attraction to her. At the Bodoza home, Mrs. Bodoza questioned Tobani about who could have leaked Enoch's water crisis to the press. At MPS, the staff was rounded up for an announcement of the new managing director, but to everyone's surprise and disappointment, it was revealed to be Uhuru, not Tobani, with even Ndoni telling Tobani that he deserved it. A press conference was then held to reveal Uhuru to the media, where they grilled him about his qualifications and the potential conflict of interest with General Mweti, who runs the National Intelligence Agency. Back at the Bodoza home, Mrs. Bodoza and her father were also not pleased with Nosipho and Mkonto's first major decision at MPS. Meanwhile, in Kokstad, Sasa's husband, Mzo, returned home to find that Khaya had made himself very comfortable. Sasa introduced Khaya as a long-lost cousin, and at first Mzo was welcoming. However, he became growingly suspicious of the relationship between Sasa and her supposed cousin. Mzo later revealed to Sasa's son that he doesn't trust Khaya or believe that he is actually his mother's cousin. Khaya and Sasa then spoke about the tension he was causing in her home, with Sasa insisting that Khaya must leave as soon as possible. However, Khaya claimed he needed more time to recover, even encouraging Sasa to tell Mzo and Zenzele the truth about him. The episode ends with Khaya making a call to an unknown person who reported that MPS had lost all its government contracts. Episode 22 picks up with the fallout of MPS losing all its government contracts, which made up 80% of the company's income. In Kokstad, Khaya was losing his mind, and Mrs. Bodoza confronted her daughter for making the foolish decision of appointing Uhuru as managing director of MPS. Uhuru was already considering handing in his resignation, but his father calmed him down, referred him to a potential client that will help him recover from losing the government contract. The potential client turned out to be an eccentric pastor with a controversial past when it comes to women. He arrived at MPS where they pitched their services. The pastor wasn't interested at first, but during a tour of MPS, he saw the beautiful Ndoni and the deal was closed. He appointed her as his personal bodyguard and insisted that she gets fitted with a form-fitting uniform. On her first day working at the church, Ndoni was shocked to find that the entire congregation was filled with women. Meanwhile in Kokstad, Khaya's presence continued to cause a strain in Sasa's family, with her son, Zenzele, questioning how Khaya and Sasa were related. A guilty Sasa lied to her son, insisting Khaya would be gone soon. However, Khaya tried to convince Sasa to tell Zenzele the truth so they could be a family, but Mzo returned home to find the former lovers too close for comfort. He confronted the two, forcing Sasa to reveal Khaya's true identity and that he was Zenzele's father. The episode ends with Mzo packing his bags, declaring that he's leaving. Episode 23 picks up with Sasa and Zenzele trying to stop an angry Mzo from leaving. However, he refused to stay and stormed out. The following day, the tension was thick, with Zenzele and Sasa arguing over Mzo's departure and Khaya's presence in their home. Meanwhile, Nosipo and Uhuru argued over General Moeti consulting him on MPS business. Nosipo then took matters into her own hands, visiting her grandfather to discuss the matter of the government contracts he withdrew from MPS. The deputy president refused to reverse his decision, forcing Nosipo to give him an ultimatum, telling Enoch that she will never see him again if he doesn't reinstate the contract. Back in Kokstad, Zenzele returned home for a second round of arguing with his mother. Khaya tried to step in, making things worse. Zenzele and Sasa's argument escalated to the point where she finally revealed the truth to him, that Khaya was his father. Meanwhile, a shocked Ndoni witnessed the pastor they were guarding inappropriately touch a girl while supposedly praying for her at church. She then saw him pass her his number after the church service. The episode ends with Ndoni dropping off the pastor, only to see him meeting up with the young girl from church. Episode 24 picks up with Ndoni searching the dirty pastor's office for evidence of his salacious act. Instead, she found money that the pastor had been stealing from the church and exposed them at a church board meeting. The pastor immediately rushed to MPS offices where he complained to Uhuru and declared that MPS was fired. Back at home, Uhuru tried to convince Nosipo to sell MPS, which she strongly rejected. Nosipo then returned to her grandfather and once again begged for help, reporting to Enoch that investors wanted to buy MPS. However, the deputy president hilariously advised her to sell the company while it still had value. In Kokstad, Khaya and Zenzele finally bonded as father and son. Khaya told him everything about him leading up to his return to Kokstad and revealed that he wants Zenzele to take over MPS. However, Zenzele insisted that his life is in Kokstad and he can't leave. Khaya told Sasa that he wants Zenzele to go to Joburg and take over MPS. However, she defiantly shut him down. The episode ends with Sasa declaring that the only way Zenzele goes to Joburg is over her dead body. Sasa and Zenzele have brought an extra dimension to the show, not only with their excellent performances, but also the flashbacks filling us in on their history together and how it connects to the bigger story. The writings about Sasa in Bonga's journal were most likely drafts of the engagement letter that Khaya asked Bonga to help him with. I really like that link. The show has done well making connections between the flashbacks and present day. The writings about Sasa in Bonga's journal might actually lead Ndoni to Kokstad for more information on her father. I like how Khaya constructed his will. He gave his wife 50% of MPS, but made her a silent partner because he doesn't trust her father, Enoch. By splitting the 50% between the children and putting it in a trust, it means that Nosipo's 25% isn't a threat in the hands of Uhuru and his father. Initially, I thought Khaya staged his own death with the ambulance explosion, but the show hasn't given us a clear answer on that, and it seems to suggest that it was a legitimate assassination attempt. For now, General Moeti and Enoch are the only real suspects, but I think Khaya's supposed death could have been executed better. There wasn't much suspense surrounding who done it, which is why I just assumed he staged it himself. It's also important to note that there's someone Khaya is talking to back in Joburg. I doubt it's Tobane, but it's definitely a character we've been introduced to already. Maybe even Ndoni's mom, who I've mentioned before is an enigma. She barely even reacted when Indoni revealed her suspicions about Khaya. It also leads me to believe that there's more to the story of Bonga's death. We need to leave room open for the possibility that Khaya wasn't responsible. It seems like they go way back. Especially after seeing the flashbacks, I find it hard to believe that Khaya would discard his best friend in that manner. I do think Zenzele will eventually make his way to Joburg. You can tell he's eager to meet his brother and sister and impress his father. I don't think Sasa had enough reason to lie about Khaya. That's the only reason Mzo was mad at her, and Zenzele took the news really well. Part of me feels like Khaya planned this, that he at least had to be keeping tabs on Sasa, and maybe knew she had a son prior to returning to Kokstad. I believe we're at the halfway point of the season. We have about another 20 episodes left, so we still have a long way to go and a lot of unanswered questions to address. We'll be back next week with another review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is ASR for the love of African filmmaking and storytelling.